Stay tuned, everybody, because it's time for the Playin on Music Row podcast with your host, Fran. Heard each week on this station. And now, here's Fran.
Well, welcome. We want to welcome Steve Gasper of the Hollywood Allstars to Playin on Music Row today. Thank you, Steve, for taking the time to speak with us.
Fran, it's my pleasure. And likewise, I want to thank you for letting me tell the folks about the band a little bit.
Oh, you're quite welcome. It's a real great, exciting band here. They're going to find that out during this interview. Well, can you tell us who is the Hollywood Allstars? Maybe a little bit of the background on who the members are. When the group was founded, and who was the founding members.
Well, I guess I would have to take responsibility for being the founding member of the band. Fran, it was actually a passion project of mine, started several years ago. And the idea behind it was to take a lot of friends of mine and associates and artists that I had worked and toured with and recorded with, and put together this group that originally started out doing cover songs by many of the artists that we had recorded with, and morphed into an original band during COVID, during the lockdown. I actually took the time to start writing some original material for the band. Within 3 months of finishing the masters, it was immediately picked up by Deco Entertainment. And I never imagined that 5 years later, I'd be sitting here telling you that the lead singer is Tommy Bowes from the Tower of Power. The horn section, the Uptown Horns, toured with the Rolling Stones on the Steel Wheels tour. The bass player has worked with Johnny and Edgar Winter. The guitar player is from the Talking Heads and Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Our drummer, Lee Finkelstein, is actually in Europe as we speak with the original Blues Brothers band. So it really is a collection of world-class recording artists that have come together, and we've all mutually agreed that the Hollywood Allstars was going to be something that we all wanted to take part of.
Okay, well, I'm not surprised after hearing them. Everybody who's watching and listening is going to realize you've got some real professional musicians there. Who are some of the artists that have influenced you or the group?
Well, me personally, I grew up, I was a classically trained pianist. I started piano lessons at 4.5. And, as I'm sure many musicians you've probably spoken with talk about that fateful evening that the Beatles appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show. And it really was a watershed moment for many of us. And I'm part of that group, and decided that was the direction of music that I wanted to go in. Obviously, back in the day, there weren't a lot of keyboards involved in many of these bands until eventually the Doors and the Young Rascals, and later on Santana. The Animals started including keyboards, and that's when it really all sort of clicked for me. My writing influences, I love great songwriters, songwriter producers. Probably David Foster would be one of my favorites. A neighbor of yours in Franklin, Keith Thomas, who's a dear friend, is also someone whose songwriting and production I've always felt a real kinship with. Recently, I've also spoken to another guitar player in Nashville, Michael Spriggs, who's worked with a variety of country artists, who has also become a big fan of the band. So little by little, Fran, word is getting out there. And I think it's through interviews like this that I'm doing with you now that is going to allow me to get, the band out there more.
Okay. Well, you have a release of EP actually, which is titled "Field of Dreams," and you have a single which we're going to play shortly after you talk. Can you tell us a little bit of the background on that particular song?
Sure, it's Field of Grace, and you're not the first person.
You're right.
That's all right. You're not the first person that's called the Field of Dreams. Field of Grace is the title song on the EP, and it's sort of a mini movie, a contemporary breakup song, and it chronicles a relationship from the beginning where two people are together and seeing stars in one another's eyes, and everything is perfect, and it's a dream come true. And little by little, as the sun sets and the sun rises, they begin to see little chinks in the armor. And the song takes you from the beginning of a relationship all the way through to the end, where unfortunately many relationships don't survive. And when the guitar solo comes in 3/4 of the way through the song, you could actually hear and feel the relationship going up in flames. So I'm very proud of that one. It's a very cool song, Field of Grace.
Okay, we're going to play it right now.
Field of grace, lying beneath a blanket of passion. Were you an angel or just my heart's assassin? I feel the vultures circling above what used to be undying love. Now it's time to give up, 'cause I love you too much not to love you enough. Circling above what used to be undying love. Now it's time to give up, 'cause I love you too much not to love you enough. Hey, I feel the vultures circling above what used to be undying love. Now it's time to give up, 'cause I love you too much not to love you
Very cool. Who's the writer on that, may I ask?
That I wrote that, actually got about 3/4 of the way through. I was actually writing it with the intention of pitching it to another artist that I was working with at the time. I brought it to him and he ended up contributing a couple of lines to the song, and I was very pleased to share it with him. His name is Frank Vielli. He's the co-writer on the song. But again, it's Tommy Bowes, the vocalist from Tower, singing, the Uptown Horns from the Rolling Stones, Andy Abel. It's just a really, really great collection of musicians. And it was a pleasure to produce them all.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hear a lot of influences on this, but I'm just wondering, how would you describe your sound, the sound of the band?
You know, Fran, it's very interesting, you know, because of the horns. I mean, everybody right away compares it to like a Tower of Power. You know, I've been asked that before, and I think the closest description I can find, if you were to take Toto and Blood, Sweat, and Tears and squish them together and a new band came out with that today, I think that's probably the closest comparison that I can, you know, give you as what the Hollywood All-Stars really is. I mean, being the chief songwriter for the band, I love writing ballads too. I mean, I'm a big sucker for a love song, and there's actually one song on the EP called The River that I'm actually in the process of pitching to a couple of artists down your neck of the woods. And it's a beautiful song. The Hollywood All-Stars did a great job on it, but I do think that it has legs to be recorded by different people. So that one in particular is something I'm very proud of.
Okay. Well, you have a live performance of Living in America, and we're going to play. Can you give us a little idea, like when that actually took place and where?
Yeah, that was fairly recently. That was, I'm in Connecticut at the, you know, I've been living here for a while. That was at a local theater in Fairfield. And the way that song came about, it was very interesting. We were working on the EP, and I was, you know, friending people left and right on social media. And a gentleman contacted me and was telling me what a big fan of the band he is and how proud he is of the band. And come to find out, that gentleman's name was Charlie Midnight. Now, I don't know if the name itself will ring a bell for you, but Charlie worked with a gentleman named Dan Hartman, and they wrote and produced for Tina Turner, Joe Cocker, a slew of really superstars. Dan and Charlie wrote Living in America for James Brown.
Yeah.
And when I found that out, you know, Charlie and I were talking, and we started, you know, throwing the idea back and forth about including one cover song on the EP. And as I was discussing it with the band, as if, you know, Charlie's endorsement wasn't enough, come to find out our horn section, the Uptown Horns, played on the James Brown Grammy Award-winning version of the song. So when I suggested it to the band, they said, you know, this is a no-brainer. We've got the songwriter who loves us and wants us to do it, the horn section from the original James Brown recording, and we figured it was a no-brainer, and we really were very proud to include it on the EP.
Great. Well, let's take a listen and look at Living in America. Hollywood. great. That was a great cover. Let me tell you, the band did a great job.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Fran. You know what? It was a little nerve-wracking. I mean, as you can imagine, to cover a James Brown song is no small task. I mean, he's got such an iconic sound and puts his stamp on everything. But we were very careful to be respectful to his original recording of the song, but still try to make it a little bit our own. And I think we accomplished that.
Yeah, well, I heard that in there for sure, and you did great. You actually did a fantastic job. Now, because you did that gig, have you done any other gigs, and do you have any plans on touring at all in support of that EP?
Well, yes, the tour. That's again, the touring is something that I'm really, I don't want to say frustrated about, but it's a little bit perplexing to me. I mean, here we are with this record out. And believe it or not, it's starting to get, making some traction at radio. And I mean, we've been at it in Japan, the UK, Australia, several internet and streaming stations in the United States. We've gotten some spins on Sirius XM. And the problem seems to be it's a very big band, as you saw. It's a 13-piece band. And in an age where everyone is cutting back, I'm sort of stubborn that, I've been offered a couple of gigs and people have said, we don't have the budget for the full band, but can you do it without the horns? Can you do it without the background vocals? And Fran, my feeling is I really don't want someone to buy our record and then come and see us and be disappointed. So I am working with a couple of different agents at the moment to try to find, even if they're, if we're not going to be working every weekend, but even if we could put together a couple of shows a month in venues where there is a budget and room for a band of this size to try to continue to play live, because, truthfully, that is what it's all about.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things when I saw the band, I said, boy, that's going to be, I wonder how they tour. But I was saying, well, maybe Las Vegas, of course.
Yeah, it would be an honor,
that's a possibility. Is there any particular people helping you promote, doing any promotion for you? Do you have any players on that team?
Well, you know what? I am sort of, I don't want to say I'm doing it all by myself, because I have been blessed to have some very, very good people close by who are helping me. But I will be honest with you and tell you the majority of it is me. I have sent the song out to several of my friends in the industry. There's a dear friend of mine, Jared Braverman, who works at Live Nation in Beverly Hills, a former A&R guy at Epic CBS in New York, Lenny Pizzi. Charlie Midnight has given us a wonderful endorsement. Michael Spriggs from Nashville. So, what I've been doing is trying to collect all of these industry insiders' feedback and comments on the band and try to use that also to help promote and sell it.
Okay. How can our listening audience find out more about the band? I mean, as far maybe that way, when you actually get to be able to do touring, find out how to maybe purchase the music or where you're going to be performing?
First of all, the CD is available everywhere. I mean, if you're a streaming person and don't buy physical product, which is fine, it's everywhere from Spotify, Pandora, anywhere, iTunes, anywhere you listen to your music, it's there. Again, it's the Hollywood All-Stars Field of Grace. For people that still like hard copies, which I'm one of those people that likes to hold something in my hand and read about who's performing on it and who produced it and where it was recorded and so forth. CDs are available at Amazon and anywhere else that you buy copies. You can also find our merch on the Hollywood All-Stars website, which is www.thehollywoodallstars.net. We're a net website. We're there. I'm also on social media, Steve Gaspar, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm very good about answering questions. And, if there's anyone that wants to get in touch with me, I'd be more than happy to tell them more about the project.
All right, well, great. Now I've asked you a lot of questions. Is there anything that maybe I haven't asked you that you would like to maybe tell the listening audience?
No, you know what, Fran, you were pretty thorough. And again, I want to thank you, because for me, it's all about getting people to listen. Listen, I think the last figure I read was some crazy figure, like there are 46,000 songs uploaded to social media daily. And if you think about that number, and most of it, or at least a lot of it, is very, very good. There's a lot of very talented people now. However, what that does to a band is it makes the competition so much more severe. There's so many more choices of stuff to listen to. It becomes difficult to find anything in the sea of music that's out there. So, you know, for me, again, I want to thank you because I think it's situations like this podcast, people like you that will talk the band up, that if it lands on someone's ear and says, hey, you know what, I heard this band, the Hollywood All-Stars, let me go check it out. You know, it's a grassroots effort on our part. Yes, there are a lot of very talented artists who've worked with virtually everyone in contemporary music, but it's still a new unknown band. So it's something that we're working on from the ground up.
Well, the National Broadcasting Network wants to thank you actually for taking the time. I know you're very busy, but I do want to thank you for spending time with us.
The pleasure's been all mine, Fran, and thank you as well. I appreciate it.
You're quite welcome.